or doing this work. And I'm really looking forward to her presentation today. So thank you so much for joining us today, Stephanie. I'm going to go ahead and pass over the airwaves to you.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here today. Um, yeah, so I will go ahead and share my screen. Um, and then hopefully get it so I can see you all. Okay. Hello, everyone. So we are going to be talking about our Leveraging Love to Prevent Violence project, which is a work in progress. And as a part of this session today, you will be a part of that. Um, just some introductions. Who am I? I am Stephanie Solomon. I have been working in prevention for years, but started with uh, child abuse and neglect prevention and a lot of work around ACEs, and then moved into the sphere of prevention of domestic violence. And what I love is that so many of the strategies that we use to end or get in the way of rates of domestic violence also apply to sexual violence, child abuse, and neglect. And so there are these strategies that address multiple social problems. And that is one of the most exciting parts of primary prevention. Yeah, who am I? I put a picture of Barbara Streisand because I like to give you a little bit of who I am, and I do like to sing some karaoke to Barbara, and also just listen to her music. And I also have my cat Cynthia. Yeah, I am kind of a cat lady. It's turning out that way as I move up in my 40s. Um, and who is ICADV? I'm coming from the Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And we do a lot of different work to act as the state coalition addressing domestic violence, working with member programs both on intervention and prevention. And I really am on the side of prevention and looking at how can we create the conditions in Indiana that mean that domestic violence either decreases or in our maybe very long horizon ceases to exist. So I'd love to hear who you are. I might not be able to look at the chat for a while, but because we have a small-ish group, if you're willing to share your name and then any affiliations that might be useful for us to know about each other as we move through today. This will be an interactive session to the degree that you're comfortable with. That might mean having your video off and writing or thinking. But I am hoping to learn from and get to know just a little bit about all of you. So names, affiliations, if you want to share who you love to sing to, whether it's karaoke or in the shower, if you want to talk about your children, your animals, whatever, would love to get a picture of who's here today. Okay, so I will keep us going. So just to give you a sense, I know for me, I like to know what I'm in for when I join a session. So we started with introductions, and those can keep coming as folks come in the room. We're going to talk about the things in the conditions that enable sexual violence and domestic violence. And then we're really going to look into what our shared protections are. So what are some of the things that protect us and really move us towards the promotion of safety and health and well-being? And then we'll dig into our Leveraging Love project. So that is our plan for today. Of course, do the things that you need to do. If you have any access needs, um, let us know what we can do. I love seeing faces and hearing voices. So if you're up to if you have input and are up to raising your hand and joining the room that way, but also if you're a chat person, I totally get that. Or if you're having a chat day. Um, or yeah, whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. I know that can be hard to do in our work sometimes, but this session is really about protective factors, and protective factors are just those things that help us be safe and well. And so let's embody that. Um, so just to give you some context, you might have seen in my bio that I have um, a master's of public health, which I got kind of late. I started doing work for a food pantry, and I was at a community food resource center for a decade. And I loved it. I was, running community gardens and teaching cooking classes and canning and fermentation. But one thing that really hit me over time was that we weren't necessarily decreasing the number of people that needed emergency food services, but that we were seeing people make really important connections when they came together in the garden, when they were cooking together, um, even in the food pantry, just, selecting food and getting to know one another. And around that time, I had the awesome opportunity to connect with the Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence, and to learn about primary prevention and to see how when we do work that is on the outer levels of the social ecology, which I will obviously I'm sharing that. I'll talk a little more about that. That we have the opportunity to address things like poverty that leads to food insecurity, the connections and the relationships and the health and well-being that protects us against multiple social problems. And so I really love the social ecological model, which is what led me at an older age to return for my master's, of course, for public health in 2020, which was quite an interesting choice there. But I wanted to understand why we so often in our work are saying, if you need to change your behavior in order to have safety and health, when actually the data shows us that when we have organizational and institutional structures that enable safety and wellness, community structures that enable safety and wellness, and societal and public policy structures that enable safety and wellness, that we can offer that to so many more people. And so I wanted to dig deeper into that. And that's really what led me to public health. And to ICADV and really digging deeper into primary prevention. So that's where we're going to base the leveraging love work today. I'm going to check the chat just to see, get a sense of who else is here. Oh, family support services, two boys. Oh yes, singing Beyonce is a big part of my life as well. Um, Also Chapel Roan. Two guinea pigs. Yes. Oh man. Yeah, 90s hip hop and R&B is kind of my sweet spot. Um, yeah, I think I'm in that age range. Um, great to see you all and to get a little sense of who's in the room, what work you do and what you love. Um, and I wish that I have to say, Whitney, I wish more terrible singers were willing to sing. You know, just, but maybe you do, just not in front of other people. I'm not sure. Okay, so when we talk about these shared strategies, I think this is part of it, right? Like we're all from different organizations, and when we get together, we're at the community level. So this gives us an opportunity to connect across the social ecology, whether you're at the YWCA doing therapy. Or an advocate in DV or SA. When we come together into a space, we're kind of moving up the social ecology because it gives us that opportunity to do work across our different organizations. So, all right, let me take us to the next. So I don't want to stay in risks too long. I think we have to, in our work, talk about the risk factors that lead to all the social problems that we're addressing in our day-to-day work. But I wanted to make sure to lift up some of the ones that we share between sexual violence and domestic violence. And these apply for those of you that are working with different populations and different social issues. And at the community level, we're really seeing neighborhood poverty and diminished economic opportunities. So all of this comes from the CDC Veto Violence website, and I have a link to it. It is a live link that you can see. And what I really like about it is that you can actually look at different social problems and then see shared risk and protections across the social ecology on the website. So I highly recommend that. It's a good way to bridge whether you're looking at risks or protections and be able to say when you're working with different organizations, look, there's work that we can do together. It makes sense for us to collaborate. There is data there. So on the societal level, cultural norms that support aggression. So we can see why this would be a risk factor for multiple forms of violence, specifically DV and SA. And then weak health, educational, economic, and social policies and laws. And so these are the policies and laws that lead to things like diminished economic opportunities or that reinforce those cultural norms that support aggression. And I will share, and Whitney has heard this, those that work on the Delta project, that really this idea for the Leveraging Love project came from driving around Indiana and specifically into Indianapolis. And for those of you, I'm guessing that most of us have reason to drive in and out of Indianapolis beyond 465. It often leads you to think about, okay, what about this structure enables us to drive aggressively? And what about this structure enables us to be thoughtful about who else is on the road with us? And that thought and that process of navigating that was really a lot of what led to thinking about our next part today, which is shared protections. So we're really landing that our shared protections, like I said, they are protections for folks that are food insecure. They're protections against sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse and neglect, and that's connections and community cohesion. And so we've got our work cut out for us. But when we work on deep connections and community cohesion, we have an opportunity, regardless of what's happening in our state, on different levels of the social ecology, to work on violence prevention. So, any thoughts or feedback on that? I'll stop. I can stop sharing for a second. Just um, about shared risks, shared protections, specifically around connections and social cohesion. And chat or raising hands, anything. I actually just did a facilitation training. I asked too broad of a question there. Um, is there anything you are doing in your life or work that you think enables connections or community cohesion on any of those levels? So it could be interpersonal, it could be organizational, um, anywhere that you think you're seeing possibility for connection and community cohesion.
I'll jump in if nobody else wants to. I'm
Thanks,
Jenna from the
Jenna.
Albion Center, and I'm so sorry, my dog's going to bark as soon as I start talking. Um, we have changed our prevention education curriculum to be primarily building relationships focused, instead of just like a hey kids, here's violence, don't let it happen to you. We really wanted to go in and teach healthy relationship skills, because even if high school students have like a health class, they may not cover red flags, green flags, how to have a healthy communication. And so while we still do cover dating violence, we really wanted to um, build the relationships and connections and hopefully have a safer society in general that way. And we're doing that with middle and high school kids.
Thank you, Jenna. Yeah, so it sounds like that's really on the interpersonal level. So working with relationships. And then Emily, I'm spearheading a collaboration with our advocacy services. We're working on a consent education program as well as a sexual violence prevention community event. Awesome. What is the community event?
There. I might just pop in and say it's probably easier than typing.
Thanks, Emily.
So we're planning for next April. Our hope is we live in a small community, and the Child Advocacy Center where I work and then the Advocacy Service all kind of have the same counties that we serve. But we're going to start here and have kind of like we're trying to figure it out, but it'll be around our courthouse. It's like a little square, some kind of like a relay race, but involve like prosecutors, police officers, some of our civic leaders, community, or and then have a lot of community organizations that have services kind of there, and then kind of end it with a screening of we're thinking maybe the hunting ground or something because we have an old theater that they fixed up. So just kind of a whole event. We'll see how it goes. That's kind of that'll be our pilot program and see how it goes.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I think a chance to come together and meet folks, especially if you're going to end up overlapping in different situations in a smaller community, any opportunity to build those connections and build that trust is a great opportunity. Glad to hear about it. Anybody else?
I can share a little bit, just not necessarily kind of what we're doing, but the philosophy that we are taking in regard to some of the prevention work within the coalition as it relates to men as allies. And so we really started kind of looking at prevention programming from the perspective of not that men are the problem, but that men can be part of the solution, and also really presenting it to men from the perspective of like, not what you shouldn't be, but really more from the perspective of like, what can you become? And really shifting that idea to be more of an inclusive um, perspective on prevention, and really bringing men into the conversation about how to prevent sexual violence, as opposed to saying it's your fault, so you need to fix it, and really kind of trying to conceptualize it from that perspective.
Mhm. Thank you, Whitney. Yeah, that's a big conversation in our field. What does it mean um, to really have full engagement from all of us? Um, we tend to have spaces where yeah, it's tough to invite everyone into the room to do the work. So I'm glad to hear about that. All right. Well, I will head back to share my screen. And I'm going to use this opportunity to tell you a little bit more about the Delta project. I'm not even going to attempt to tell you the acronym because at this point it's less important. But just like a lot of you know about RPE, which supports efforts to prevent sexual violence in all kinds of different ways. Delta is a little bit smaller. There's 13 coalitions that are funded by it. And really what we've focused on in Indiana is on the state level, looking at specifically those economic conditions. And so how do we create connections and community cohesion through those protections that come from having economic stability? So we have a really great team. ICASA is on our team that comes together and talks about the different ways that we are working on protections across the state and where there is room for us to overlap. And sometimes the focus on how we're getting to enabling connections is different, but it gives us a chance to really look at where we could be supporting one another and collaborating. We also work closely. We have a community partner subrecipient, Hands of Hope, that's out of Grant County, Marion, Indiana. And they're also working on some fatherhood initiatives. So looking again around some of those norms, Whitney, that you were talking about, but specific to fatherhood, as well as working on creating protective environments. So another way of creating that community cohesion is investment in green space. And folks are often like, "What? You're preventing domestic violence through building a park? What is that about?" But it's really remarkable when a county, a city, an institution invests in a well-tended green space that also offers opportunities for people to use it and come together. There's that interpersonal connection that happens if it's a park and people are spending time in the park together. There's the opportunity for community events like Emily was talking about. But there's also that general feeling of I'm in a community where there's an investment in my neighborhood, in the area where I live. So that's why when we do green space, it's so important to know that we can sustain it, because to create the kinds of protections that we want to create, there has to be a long-term feeling of investment and connection. And trust between communities, institutions, and folks that live around the green space. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're coming from today. Then let me go to the next one. So all of this connects with our work that is from originally the CDC's Resource for Action, which used to be called a technical package, called Essentials for Childhood, Safe, Stable, Nurturing Relationships and Environments. So I'm not sure if everyone has seen that. I do have a link to it at the end of the presentation today. But each of these strategies that we're going to talk about and that we're moving toward with leveraging love are about creating the safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments needed to limit those risk factors as much as we possibly can and increase those protections. So with the work around masculinity and fatherhood, that's really looking at nurturing being accessible to everyone, and being a norm for everyone to be nurturing. With the safety and stability, that's those green spaces that are there throughout time, where institutions and communities are investing. It gets to housing, all the things that really make up a safe, healthy life in our community. But the harder thing to talk about sometimes is love. And so we're going to go through an activity today. And I have noticed over time, Whitney brought up being in this project with us, it has changed. That we, especially when I worked with high school kids doing this activity, I say kids, high school young adults, and young college aged folks, that we really have a norm in our society of thinking of love as being romantic love. And I want to make sure to clarify that we are thinking of it in much broader terms. And so this can be the love that we feel that really comes from within when we smell the first peony of the season. It can come from a sip of a soda that reminds us of a beloved grandparent. All different kinds of things can draw feelings of love. Sometimes when, I don't know, in the winter, when downtown, when my town is turned, the lights are turned on for the first time, and it's like, ooh, the snow is coming. And so these are not just between people. It can be the feelings internally of connection that come in all different ways. So rising of love may well be about love between people, but it might be the love that comes from the different things that bring us joy and a real gut feeling of connection. So I want to take a minute. I'll have everyone turn our videos off, and to think about some of the things that bring a rising of love for you. Like I said, it might be memories. It might be something on the community level. It might be a song. It might be a cat. It might be a certain park or hiking trail. But really the things that make you feel connected and energized by the world. And so this, again, it could be something connected to your work, and it might not be. I know for me, there was a while where I worked in an office space where we would all come together. Whoever was there first would make the coffee. And then we would have the local paper because we were a community-based organization. And so there was something about the feel of newspaper and the smell of coffee. Obviously, this was years ago. We're all looking it up now, but that really gives me a feeling of being ready to start the day. So it can show up in all parts of our lives. So I'm going to stop talking because I'm getting in the way of your process. And I'll give us until about 10:38. My clock says 10:32, to come up with some ideas. And for those of you that are willing to be ready to either share them over video or through the chat. Okay, so see you at 10:38. So we'll come back together in just a moment, just kind of preparing those of you who might be in thought or writing. All right. Thank you to those of you who have written in the chat. Oh, yes, the first warm and sunny day. I just saw that one. We really feel that in the Midwest, I think. Um, so is there anyone? Yes, food, music, and art. And oh, the smell of warm rain. There was a children's book when I was young that was all based around the smell of warm rain. I don't know if anyone remembers that. Um, but yeah, I'd love to welcome anyone who would like to um, turn on their video or even just turn on their microphone and share back. In the meantime, what I'm seeing, so the smell of chicken and homemade noodles. So we have food, um, looking out from the porch at the sky, enjoying the sunshine, hearing the leaves, um, the first warmth. So we're seeing nature, dancing like no one is watching, um, witnessing kindness in strangers. I wish all humanity had the capability to feel. I wonder, when I read that one, I thought, I wonder, and I don't think that we have the answer in this room, but the wishing, um, I on the right day, I feel like we all do, that that's part of our humanness. And then the old pictures of kids and grandkids, remembering, so that nostalgia, memory, and again, the warmth. And then we always have food and music and art come up. The warm rain, so connecting with nature, jazz music, um, yeah, kayaking and hiking, yeah, books and music. Um, Yeah, fall is a big one. The ocean is a great one. I don't know who Taylor and Travis are. Oh, maybe. Stepping foot on my yoga mat, salt water, fresh laundry. Mm. So, okay, I'm gonna ask a harder question now. So, why in violence prevention could it be useful for us to connect with how we feel when we smell the ocean, um, or take a walk in the fall? Because we're dealing with a lot. Do we have time to think about this? Why take the time? Stay grounded. So yeah, that's really about us being able to do the work. Thank you, Emily. Any other thoughts? This is my first time offering this virtually. So anything you're willing to share would be great. If we try to stay connected, we're more grounded, we can empathize, come back to what energizes you when witnessing violence and suffering. Absolutely. Self-care and self-love. Thank you, Brittany and Erin and Jenna and Emily. So what I'm hearing from all of you, I resonate with deeply. I think in order to be in this field, we have to do this. But the question and the work of leveraging love is attempting to do something a little bit different. We're seeing culturally that a lot of what is moving us to action is a sense of being disconnected, isolated, angry, frustrated. And it's very easy for us when we're creating strategies to prevent violence to really focus in on those feelings and those reactions that are, reasonable, valid reactions to the things that happen in the world. But we are positing that there is an opportunity for us, those of us that are working in violence prevention, to move from a motivation of love. And so it's not just about what keeps us going from day to day, but also using that empathy, the connection with others, the care for the world and for other humans, to really look at strategies to prevent violence. So if I were to ask you to zoom out, and I'll kind of go back a little bit if I can figure out how to. So if we were thinking about what it would mean to leverage love, leverage that gut feeling of connection, not just on the individual or relationship level, but in our organizations, in our communities, what might that look like? So I would say that Emily's example was a good one, that bringing people together and creating a space where there's trust building and maybe some of those feelings and memories can be sparked, so that instead of just looking back on good times, we can look forward towards safety. So Emily's saying people have to feel valued and they have to feel safe. Absolutely. So what's our role in that? So if anyone's willing to offer an example, whether it's something that you do in your organization, something that an institution offers, or something that happens in your community, an example of how we are building connections and leveraging those feelings that we all just really grounded in. So creating and supporting communities that accomplish that goal. Yeah, so being in it together. Jenna, when people are in trauma, DV, poverty, unemployment, they're disconnected from their center, we can help them return there and move towards a healthier environment. Keeping communication open, doing our best to remove personal biases and listen to others' experiences and keep empathy at the forefront. Thank you, Erin. Any examples of what folks are doing in order to do these things? How do we help folks return? How do we remove biases? What enables us to listen and keep empathy at the forefront? I am asking the hard questions. I think that violence prevention requires that we ask the hard questions and strategize around them. But that takes time, and it may not be something that folks have right on the tip of your tongue right now.
I was going to throw out there a couple things, but
I would love that.
okay.
Thank you.
So I just feel like in our community, the different things I do, whether it's in work and outside of work, I think collaboration is huge. And so um, just different things that I'm a part of, trying to get a Boys and Girls Club started in our community. We have a group called Parent Supporting Education. We try to just encourage educators and show them that they're valued, just little things like that. I think going to, at least for me, just being a part of things in our community that maybe are not my comfort level or not something that I'm always a part of. And then just learning more about others. And, again, like someone said, what my biases are and how you overcome those so that you can take care of everyone in all of those aspects of their life. And then, just kind of growing that sense of true community. I think that's, if you had a true sense of community, if everyone in there felt included and valued and belong, yeah, eliminates a lot of those other things. So it's a pipe dream, but there you go.
I think we have to reach for the pipe dream, so I'm glad you're willing to, Emily. Yeah, the being valued, having trust, a sense of belonging, those are tough things. And I saw Jenna just added, we started Fun Fridays with shelter guests. They do the hard work, and we want to offer a space for fun and being carefree. I like that focus on listening to what people would like to do, and offering a spa day, painting, movie nights. Yeah, so really listening, and listening can happen at the organizational level, it can happen at the community level. But yes, I think to really find these places where we connect, listening is an essential part of it. Thank you, Emily and Jenna, for jumping in. Yeah, so this is why this project kind of keeps on moving the way that it is we're trying to look at how do we engage in the hard work. And there are, I think, some natural ways that we do that in community and in neighborhood and families. And we want to look at, can we expand beyond that? And what does that mean in this moment in the world? And that has changed over time. So we talk about it as, if I'm talking about what it's like to navigate 465 or a really challenging highway, what would that restructuring look like? So what restructuring do we have the ability to impact? And I think it's come up a lot that it's probably not going to be alone. Emily really focused in on that the collaboration is a necessary part of that. It's probably not just going to be one of us that makes that happen. So I'll take us back to our next prompt. So do we have any mutual connection points in our Zoom room? Are there possibilities for cohesion across difference in our organizations, our communities? And so the question here is really about what strategies for social cohesion exist in our movement and in our organizations. So I know it's been quieter. I appreciate those of you that have been willing to jump in. I will say that doing this activity in person, it's been a great one for folks to get to know one another. In our work in DV and SA, we know well how necessary it is to have boundaries, and sometimes creating connections, it can be hard to both hold the boundaries and build the connections. And I think this activity offers an opportunity, especially in person, to build those connections while also holding the boundaries that we need in order to keep doing this work and to stay safe together. So I'd love to open up the space and hear about any mutual connection points, places we could work together, or any new strategies or strategies that haven't been shared yet that help us build social cohesion. I'll go ahead and stop sharing. Maybe then if we're all seeing each other, at least each other's names, that might help us get there. Put egos aside and do the right thing together. Yeah, I think that one is, yeah, how do we hold everything that we are holding as individuals and connect through that. So warm handoffs between organizations for clients that are fleeing from different parts of the state. Yeah, that's a hard one. Is there especially when we're low on resources. But that's a really, really important one. And it works better, I'm guessing, when organizations are connected to one another. Like if that relationship and trust is there, the warm handoff is going to be possible in a way that it isn't if there's not the connection. Anything else? Okay, well, I will share my screen again. I have a final slide here, but I want to take a little bit of time. So I have my information. So if you were feeling like, oh, this isn't really the right space for me to dig in, but you do have thoughts or feedback, or just want to collaborate, you have my information as well as ICADV's website. But I also really want to lift up in the citations, the connecting the dots. And the veto violence risk and protective factor tools. So both of those offer the opportunity to look at how we, across sexual violence prevention, domestic violence prevention, child abuse and neglect prevention, ACEs prevention. There are all these places that we can work together to prevent violence from happening in the first place. And then some of those prevention resources for action. And you'll see a lot of the work that you all are doing that is addressing risk factors and promoting protections. And when it comes down to it, all of these protections on some level of the social ecology and on some level of our work are about those connections. Yeah, so I'll leave that up and open up some space for any conversation or questions.